This computer. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Jenna.
This is Jeff, and this is Transform Your Talk. And today we are lucky, very lucky, to have Galit Lurie from Israel. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did I say that last
Pleasure to
name
be
right?
with you.
Yes. And how did we meet, Galit?
Well, I think I mentioned on a podcast or two ago, Jeff and I had to take a week or two off. We got to go out to San Diego to be part of the American Bar Association's Conflict Resolution Conference. And over 500 people were there, amazing conflict resolvers and peacemakers. And one of them got to sit down and have breakfast with us. And it happened to be Galit. And we just hit it off, felt very lucky to get to meet her. And of course, I plugged for the podcast and shamelessly asked her to please come on and join us.
And we're happy that we're here with you.
So thank you. Galit, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me at your podcast. And I have a very warm place for Michigan and Lansing in my heart. As I shared with you, I grew up in East Lansing many years ago, and I've been back to Israel, my homeland, for many years. And so for me to share things with you back home is really heartwarming. Thank you.
It's an amazing world where we meet in San Diego, and you're a Spartan living in Israel. So hooray.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll share with you my world in mediation, which we also share our zest and love for conflict resolution. I've been working in conflict resolution for the past 25 years. I studied mediation in Chicago at the Chicago Center for Conflict Resolution, and also family mediation with the late Lynn Jacob, which was president of the AFM then. And I fell in love with the concept. I studied law in the Hebrew University and served as a lawyer, and I felt that I was not in the right place where I could be of best to the world. And meeting mediation in Chicago opened a whole new place in my heart for service, understanding that there is so much to do to shift the minds of people from litigating adversarially and fighting to a world of problem solving together in the concept of win-win, as we all know it in the world of mediation. And so after having a wonderful year in Chicago, I came back to my homeland of Israel, which I am very proud of being part of. And in Israel at that time, and talking about 1994, there were just bylaws about mediation, but there were no mediators because there were no schools training mediators. There was just people that understood the concept was so important. So there were bylaws for mediation without mediators or mediation or anything. So we created a group of people that were in love with the field. And like you have your signature solution group, which are just, parallel to our voyage in life of mediation. And together we started teaching mediation, preaching for mediation, speaking with lawyers, speaking with judges, speaking at the bar, and inspiring people to look at conflict differently. And we've gone a long ways since then, and I'll be happy to share with you our voyage of 25 years in the field of pioneering the field of mediation in Israel.
Wow. You are quite a pioneer. It sounds like you've been very busy.
Yes.
So what have you done as far as changing it from, you said you were training mediators. Has there been any law reform? Has anything changed as far as what the rules and laws are regarding mediation in Israel?
Okay. So I'll be happy to share with you an amazing law reform that is very revolutionary. And the reason I'm happy to share it with you, because I know your love for the field and your understanding how important it is for society, and maybe to inspire the listeners, because I know you guys are inspired, by thinking of changing the laws concerning conflict resolution in all the communities that are willing to go to this important voyage. And I'll share with you that after 25 years of working in this field and preaching about the importance of amicable dispute resolution, we have managed here in Israel to legislate an amazing law reform, which is called the Early Dispute Resolution Law Reform. And we understand that the earlier people arrive at dispute resolution, at amicable dispute resolution, at mediation, or collaborative law meetings, the best it is for society. Meaning that if the conflict is caught at the beginning of its stages of dispute, then it is easier to solve it, to resolve it, and to free society from the burdens of ongoing conflict. Okay, and in order to catch the conflicts when they're small and not have them go through adversary litigation, our law reform is as following. Okay, and I can even share with you, if you would want me to share with you, even a slide about that. The way it goes is that you can imagine a funnel. Okay, let's look at my hands. Imagine a funnel. Today, if people have disputes, they fight between themselves, they don't resolve it, they go to court. Now, once they go to court, first they go to a lawyer, and lawyer A says, oh, listen, you want 5. Your other side says you deserve 2. Why don't I write him a letter? And I write him a letter, and in the letter I'll write, you deserve 20 plus. Okay. So he sends this letter to the other side, and then the other side gets very angry and says, oh, he doesn't deserve this amount of money. I would want to give him 2, but I'm not even going to give him 2. I'm going to say that he owes me. And what we do by this adversarial system is that people enlarge the differences between them, because they have to then go towards a judge, and the judge has to decide. So when we go to a judge, we exaggerate a little bit, because we want to get, if you want to get here, ask this. And so the tension between people grows. And so what we've done in Israel is we've decided that before you go to a judge, let's try to the mass people, look at the funnel again. Instead of all these people that are disputants go to a judge and exaggerate their cases and have it finalized by adversarial verdict, let's have the funnel, the mass of people, go to amicable ADR. ADR, alternative dispute resolution methods. Okay. And so what this funnel did is that in the civil cases, 50% of the people that were approached agreed to start mediation. Okay, because the funnel says first see a mediator, see if you're fit for mediation, have this pre-mediation discussion. And if you decide you want to go to mediation, you're not going to be forced, because mediation is voluntary. If you want to start mediation, start mediation. And so this automatically, by default, causes the people to start resolving their disputes, whoever can, in mediation. So what we find now, after having this for several years, is that the people who are approached to go to mediation, to go to a pre-mediation session, 50% of them opt to start mediation. Okay, and instead of 100% of the people going to a judge, 50% opt to go to see a mediator.
So Galit, is this also, I trust this is a civil litigation, civil disputes, also divorce cases would be handled like that?
Now, this is the way it's in civil cases. And in divorce cases, it's similar, but it's even more revolutionary. And now I'll get into what happens in divorce cases. In divorce cases, what happens is that instead of bringing divorce papers to the court, okay, once you want to get a divorce, you hand in divorce papers.
Right.
These divorce papers tend to be very, very vicious, because people try to say that they're amazing and the other side is not that good, and that's why they don't deserve ABC, and they're very acrimonial,
Right.
And what happens after you see these bad words written on you? You get pissed out. Sorry for the
Yeah.
words. Okay.
Yes,
People are,
absolutely.
and the differences escalate, and the children are in the middle, feeling these two people getting so nasty one at each other. So we've decided to erase this escalation upon the approach to the dispute. And how did we do this in this very revolutionary act? If you want to hand divorce papers in Israel, you want to start a divorce proceeding, you only hand in a petition for dispute resolution. That's the way you start divorce procedures in Israel.
Wow.
And this petition is very easy. It's a plain paper, and it has your name, your email, your phone, and your spouse's name, email, and phone number. And you just have to write, I apply this for a dispute resolution. That's the only way you can start divorce proceedings in Israel.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Is that with or without children? Doesn't matter. That's the way it works.
With children, without children, that is the only way it works.
And then is there a time frame? You know, some of these divorce cases they require some quick orders, custody orders, and parenting time orders and those kinds of things. So is there a time frame that has to happen in?
Yes, there are. First of all, once you hand in this petition, there are 60 days. We call it the frozen period. Okay, and that frozen period, you cannot do anything litigation-wise, but you can access the court only for urgent matters. And I will tell you a little bit about the urgent matters, but before getting into what are the urgent matters that you can hand in petitions for, the mass of people have a frozen period of 60 days in which their case is referred to the social services annexed to the courts. Okay, so you hand in this petition, you go to social services. That's the funnel. That's how the mass goes, okay, instead of a judge. And then what happens in the social services? You get up to 4 meetings, okay? The meetings are for receiving information and for understanding your situation, for calming down people, and for starting to understand, do you need therapy? Do you need counseling? Do you need mediation?
Wow.
Might you want to have collaborative law, arbitration? And you sit down, you have this period of time just to think through. You know, a lot of people, you know, after that, they don't really, you know, something eases up or eases down and they're out. Some people will go to mediation after that. So what we have found that just by doing this intervention, this early dispute intervention, we've managed to take down 50% of the caseloads of the family court.
Wow.
Now, imagine what that does to the best interest of children. You de-escalate the amount of fear, anger, adversarial litigation for parents, and children enjoy parents that go through more amicable processes in order to facilitate their differences.
This is
a
so
major,
exciting.
major change.
Exciting and interesting, and wow.
So the social services annex to the court consists of collaborators, lawyers, counselors, social workers, those kind of people? Okay.
Mainly social workers who have been trained to do this work. There are also lawyers, family lawyers that help through these processes. And they also have a list of accredited mediators that they can refer to. In order to do this revolution, we also went through a very big revolution for accrediting mediators because, you know, if we want to do such a change, there has to be a list of people that you can refer to that the court has approved. So the state went into a whole process for accrediting mediators to do that, to be referred to that are from the social services.
Wow.
And when were these changes? I missed that part. When did they come about?
Okay. The law came about in 2014. It was enacted in 2016 as a temporary law, and then in 2020 it became a permanent law because of its success.
Wow.
So it was voluntary up until 2020, I suppose.
It wasn't voluntary, it was
Oh.
just it was enacted temporarily, but it was
Okay.
fully enacted.
Okay.
Because it said that they'll check it after 5 years to see if it works, and if it works, it'll be enacted permanently.
And what is the 50% again? The caseload or
The
actual
case-
cases that go to litigation are reduced to 50%
The
or what?
actual number of families going to litigation decreased in 50%.
Wow.
Okay.
That is revolutionary and different than what we do here. But wow, we talk a little bit about pre-mediation here and the need for that. It's like, not only do you all do that there, but you get multiple meetings, you're assessing things for mental health and all of that. It's wonderful and fantastic.
Good healing.
Very, very healing centered. So what great work you're doing.
And in the civil, back to the civil for a minute, then they're obviously not going to social services, but they're going to a mediator in that first 60 days.
In the civil cases, it's not a 60 days frozen period like in
Okay.
the family cases. In the civil cases, there is a buildup that you first have to have a meeting with the counsel of the other side to do some preliminary work and to build agreements on procedure, on maybe going to ADR. There's some subject that you have to do in a preliminary meeting with the counsel before you even enter the court. And after that, if you go by these criteria, you receive an invitation to do a preliminary meeting with a mediator. And that's mandatory. And then you meet with the mediator for a half an hour, just discussing on the options of mediation. And just after you have opted yes, you continue to mediation. If you opt no, just then you can see a judge. Okay, so
Okay.
these are all preliminary EDR, early dispute resolution procedures. But in the civil case, you first have to hand in the claim and the defense, and just then you go on to these procedures. In the family case, it's different. You hand in this petition, which is very, very clean. Then you go to the frozen period. In the frozen period, you go to the social services. Then you try to opt out to the other different options of counseling, therapy, and mediation.
Was there a lot of resistance to this program when it was introduced?
Oh, yes, there was a lot of resistance.
Okay.
The main resistance was from the bar.
Right. Taking work away from us. I can hear it now.
Yeah. And one of the amazing things that lawyers said, they're saying, by putting this petition, which is very, nothing really, you're taking the freedom of speech from disputants to throw all their difficulties on paper. Imagine that, how it sounds strange now, because we all know how words create create a world. And if you don't want to create a bad world, don't let those words on paper.
That's very true.
That's huge.
Now, and maybe this is a silly question, but these mediation processes, these meetings, are they all confidential as well?
Yes.
Okay.
All confidential. The social services cannot tell the court judge what happened. The mediator cannot tell the judge what happened. They're all confidential.
That's wonderful.
And as a mediator practicing in that environment, then the people have to pay for the services, right? From the beginning of the mediation. But the court thing, the annex, the social part with the court is part of the government's approach to it. So you don't pay, or how does that work?
Okay. So in order to file the petition, you pay 100 shekels, which is equivalent to about $30 just for that. And that enables you to receive up to 4 free meetings at the social services annex to the court. What we found out is that it is less expensive to do that than to have people, use judges' time, court time, and it is less fruitful in terms of what do we want to accomplish? We want these people to de-escalate. Okay, and in terms of society, that's the major issue. Now, there is a problem of, it's not flawless, the system. We're all the time checking and balancing it, the differences and the difficulties. And one of the problems that we found that it really is hard for the social services annexed to the court to, refer people to mediation, because mediation is private. And even though there are, statutory fixed rates, which are, they're still, you still have to pay them when you go to mediation.
Mhm.
So it's not flawless, and it's hard for them to move people to private mediation from these court annexed social services. But the other thing, the upside that we found is that there's a huge social change, because people, what do they hear? They hear you go to court, you're going to be sent to mediation. Why do I have to go to court? Why don't I go to private mediation?
Mhm.
Okay, so the shadow of the law has a huge impact. And us mediators, we're packed with work, because people know we get divorced, we go to mediation. Okay, or we negotiate, or we ask our lawyers to negotiate for us, not to fight for us, to negotiate for us. So the lawyers who were against this change at the beginning, they were afraid they'll take their job away, are now, if you can't beat them, join them. So we've had humongous amount of lawyers come to study our mediation classes at the bar. I've been teaching at the bar mediation for the past 25 years, which is part of the revolution, is education, education, education.
Mhm.
Okay, and after this law reform, even before the law reform, a lot of lawyers came to study mediation as part of their education. But after the law reform, family lawyers packed the mediation classes. And now a lot of them are mediating and negotiating and collaborating. It changed the society of how you deal with divorce in Israel. Okay, that's amazing. In private cases, not only in the ones referred to the court, because the shadow of the law is that great.
Have you ever made or given a proposal or a speech or a lecture here in the US advocating for this kind of system to be adopted here before today?
Okay. Okay, so as you've met me in San Diego, I was
Right.
invited by the American Bar Association Dispute Resolution Section to speak about this amazing reform in the conference that we just had in San Diego. So I gave a presentation there. And after that, I was invited by the SCMA, the Southern California Mediation Association, to talk about it. FMI is their their Family Mediation Institute. That was in Los Angeles a week after we met in San Diego. So I gave a plenary discussion and presentation there also. And I gave also a presentation about this also at the AFCC, the 60th anniversary of the AFCC last year. And the year before that in the California branch of the AFCC. We're trying to spread word about this, because we really believe that it's in the hands of all of us, mankind, to change the way conflict is dealt with. And there is nothing like changing it in the default of human behavior. Okay, if the default of human behavior is you first go to mediate before you litigate, and it's from the law, then people do what the default method is. Okay, and if the default is go to, write these nasty papers and go to court, that's what the mass will do, even though they don't have to do that. Okay, so it's very important to change the default method of dealing with conflict.
It's interesting you say changing the default. When you spoke about that 60-day frozen period and the process they go through with those meetings, and we discussed children involved in those, what a great example it sets for these children to see how conflict can be resolved together and in a peaceful, kind way. In the United States, in some of our school systems, we have restorative justice or restorative practice, where our students are learning how to resolve conflict together in a circle peacekeeping process. But I really love how those 4 meetings and even the very beginnings of this process can trickle down to children and can allow them to change that mindset from 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, where it's, we don't go to court and litigate. We talk about how we're feeling. We work through those disputes. We cool down, because if we're teaching our children that, it's going to trickle up. It's fabulous. It's so wonderful that you're thinking of, like you said, all mankind, little bitty, all the way up. So it's absolutely wonderful. We are in awe. Now we got to bring it all to East Lansing. I didn't hear East Lansing on your chat.
West Coast mostly.
CV. So we got to get you here so you can tell
Yeah,
everybody in Michigan
I'm
what's going
open
on.
to come. I'm open to think together. Now we
Awesome.
have Zoom and airplanes, and we can do
Absolutely.
that and that. And there's a lot of things that I can learn from what you guys are doing, but you're doing amazing work. I heard that on the conference and learn from you and bring to our community. And I'm very happy to share what we do in our community. And, things are not flawless. We all have to, go through a lot of thought and invest thought in how to make our work more productive.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope as your work progresses and becomes even more revolutionary and dynamic, you'll come back to speak with us again.
I'll be more than happy to. And thank you so much for
Yay.
inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And thank you for healing.
We'll all heal together.
Peace.